Here, sorry about that.
Councilmember Risberger,
Here.
Councilmember Lapari Shu,
Here.
Councilmember Carson,
Here.
Councilmember Harrington,
Here.
Councilmember Rafter, I don't expect to be with us tonight, and Councilmember Drenick.
Here.
Okay. We've got everyone here except for Councilmember Rafter tonight. Okay, I will start off. Tonight I just want to spend a few minutes. I want to just to say thank yous to people. We have been through a very, very uniquely difficult 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. I've lost track. And the last couple of weeks have been even harder. And we've come out on top all along. And it's not the work of any 1, 5, 10, or even 100 people. So many people have chipped in, and I hate saying thank yous to a long list of people because I'm certainly going to forget some, but I still think it's worth doing, and I apologize to people I don't. First, I want to say a big thank you to Heidi Bond and the County Department of Health. They have been wonderful partners to the city of Oneonta, and the rapid testing that is going on today and tomorrow and next Tuesday and Wednesday would not have been possible without their help. Same goes for Bassett Healthcare Network. Most of the people who are operating the rapid testing this week and next week are employees of the Bassett Healthcare. And we couldn't have done it without them. And there was no hesitation on either the part of the Department of Health or Bassett Healthcare to step right up and provide us assistance. The Otsego County Chamber has been a great partner to us all throughout. I know that they are a county organization, but they have been keenly focused on Oneonta, and we appreciate that. And of course, Destination Oneonta. And all of the people who volunteered in one way or another, the dozens and dozens of people to help with our Survive and Thrive efforts. Specifically, 2 people on that, Mark Drenick and Al Rubin, who you can see the Saturday closings would not have happened without these 2 people. And they could be seen every day schlepping tables and chairs and umbrellas and, from early morning until late night, every single Saturday. What can you say? They're just real doers, and thank you to that. The folks in Albany who jumped on it when we did have a big problem, whether it was the chancellor, the governor, the commissioner of the Department of Health, all the people at the Mohawk Valley region, all jumped on helping us. Otsego County Development Corporation, Future of Oneonta Foundation, the Community Foundation of Otsego County have all been valuable partners in our Survive and Thrive efforts. And I want to say something about the college students. We've had some problems, but we know that 95% or more of the college students did not act irresponsibly. They're victims of this just as everybody else. And I just want to say, thank you to them, because we tend to stereotype the college students and blame them for the outbreak, but it was really a very small number that held the parties compared to the thousands that are here. And of course, to our staff who have been amazing over the last 6, 7, 8 months, just changing the way we do everything, creating things as we did it, putting in very, very long hours, often 7 days a week, always with a positive attitude and a strong sense of teamwork. And we didn't miss a beat. We kept providing the services that a city needs to provide under circumstances that nobody had ever seen before. And finally, we had yesterday a few parents of SUNY students donated $4,000 or so to the chamber to support our Survive and Thrive effort. And it's interesting because those are the same parents that flamed me on Facebook, for the things that we did, like curtail bus service and raise fines and show some tough love. And they expressed that they may have acted a little with stronger emotions than they should have. And they wanted to show some support for the city. And they raised money and donated the money and made some very, very nice comments about the city. And I said, I understand, as a parent myself, sometimes we act strongly emotionally when things are happening to our children. So I want to say thank you to them for, stepping up and saying, look, we reacted strongly. Maybe we're a little negative, but it was crazy times, and appreciate them raising money, donating $4,000 to the chamber, specifically to be used for the Survive and Thrive efforts. So I'm sure I'm missing some people, but I just thought it was important to recognize how many friends we've had, how many people, whether they're part of this community or outside this community, really cared enough to step up and get us through the last 7-8 months. We couldn't have done it by ourselves. So a big thank you to all of them. That's all I have. We'll go to board and commission reports. Board of Public Service. That is Councilmember Drenick, I believe.
Yes, it is. And it was a short meeting held September 3rd. There were a couple of items that had been moved to the agenda for that meeting that we still couldn't do much with. 21st Street and 396 Chestnut Street, both water and sewer bill appeals. Both of those are tabled probably until next month. We can't get in to test the meters. 5 West Ann Street, water and sewer bill was appeal was denied. 89 Elm Street, which is a front and rear situation, 2 different residences. There were electrical violations. Appeal was approved, and the fines were waived as inspections were filed as one property. It's 2 properties, so it's a paperwork issue. And again, the appeal was approved and the fines were waived. And that pretty much brought us through to the end of the agenda, although at this point we're looking at code enforcement to generate a list of blighted properties so that we might review that at our next meeting. A lot of these properties have been impacted by COVID, as you can't get access, in-person follow-ups and that type of thing have really kind of derailed some of that. So we'll get a much better sense of where we are next month, and I'll report back on that.
Thank you. Questions, anyone?
Okay.
Councilmember LaParisio?
Yeah, Mark, I recognize that you may not have the answer to the question, but the 89 Elm electrical violation, you said that that was a paperwork error. So
Yes.
are there any, I guess, could you elaborate on that a little bit? Were they found to have some safety issues, or
It doesn't appear.
is it just because
Yeah, it does not appear to be the case. It appears to be a matter of the filings, and again, because the filings were, there was one property that was missing within the context of the appeal, and that had been included erroneously into one where it should have been 2. It was a paperwork issue, and because of that, it was waived, and the fines were waived, and the appeal was approved.
So I guess my question is, was it a technicality based on a paperwork, or were the criteria judged on not appropriate to the property?
I don't believe, as I'm looking at my notes, that we got into whether or not there was an actual violation. I don't believe, anecdotally, I can say that I don't believe that there was a violation. I think it was just a paperwork snafu. And because of that, the owner of the property had her appeal approved.
Okay, I'll follow up with code. Thanks for giving me what you had on that.
Sure.
Okay, if there are no other questions, Next is Environmental Board. That would be Councilmember Davies.
Thanks, Mayor. So the Environmental Board met last Wednesday, and amongst the things they discussed, first they discussed 2030, Oneonta 2030, and they're going to be reviewing that, checking off things that have been accomplished, and then trying to focus on particular targets as some goals for the next couple of months. They had a pretty robust discussion on the items they'd like to try to include in a budget, recognizing that the budget might be coming up soon. Amongst those things they talked about was tree maintenance and also some recycling cans on Main Street. And they're going to be putting together something and sending it towards us. They also spent quite a bit of time talking about the proposed beekeeping ordinance that they'd like to propose. They were wordsmithing as well as then trying to think about how they might like to engage the public in discussions around this prior to sending up any kind of proposed ordinance. And they're planning to invite the Leatherstocking Beekeeping Association Society, not sure, to the next meeting to have an informational session as well as to have some Q&A with those folks. So we'll have to see whether they accept the invitation. Will be at that next meeting. And that is pretty much the meeting.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, let's go to Parks and Rec. Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Yeah, Parks and Rec met last night. We actually a very detailed summary from Parks Director Lou Lansing, and City Engineer Greg McTice was with us. I'm just checking. Can you guys hear me okay? So far, so good. Great. Okay. So there are a couple things that we talked about. There was an issue. There was a phone line upgrade at the recreation office. And so folks have been trying to contact Lou and she's not getting the messages. So that's almost resolved. But if you call her and don't get a response, the best way to contact her is by email. We just commended the City YMCA partnership on the summer swimming season with everything going on. It was a great success. And as far as I know, there were no cases associated with having her open this summer. So a lot of people got some great outdoor activity because of the efforts of a lot of people. We discussed the community gardens, which have been very successful. In no small part to Judy Pangman, who secured a grant for some upgrades here. So they had a successful year, and some local folks had asked about planting fall crops, like garlic you plant now in harvest summer. And so the commission felt good about that. So that's going to go forward. Also, just hat tip to Carrie, our tech savvy deputy clerk, who was totally integral in the summer music series. We had a ton of views and impressions. People from 27 states and 8 countries watched those 9 shows. Those have all concluded now. There were basically all of the events that were scheduled for the rest of 2020 have been canceled due to COVID. And Field 6 is closed. We waited for a while and just kind of took in all the info before making that decision. But ultimately, it's baseball, and they were just worried about the gathering size of 2 teams and then everybody who comes with. So they just wanted to err on the side of caution there. And I know she was really bummed about not being able to provide that for the community. And then I think just a note for the council, a question that I had asked is, since we're not having all these events and year fees and even the application fees are being refunded this year. So the revenue from those things, I believe, and maybe someone from finance confirm this, comes, or I guess doesn't go into the general fund. So that's probably something that our finance director has been communicating with us in her reports, but I don't know if it's broken out like that we see that. So it's just something to think about. Court resurfacing is going to be finished by the fall. So that's exciting. That's something on the parks plan, as was the community garden upgrade. So that's two things off the parks plan that are completed. We talked a little bit about the Hodges Pond ecology. There's going to be some fun stuff going on with that, probably in the next year. You know what I found out yesterday, and I was very excited? Hodges Pond turns 100 next year. That's so exciting, I think. So also, we just got some updates on basketball court lighting project and field resurfacing at Damaski. And then we also just talked over the policy on bench sponsorship, which is exactly what it sounds like. So there's sort of an archaic policy that says that that was developed by the Parks and Rec Commission, I think, says that benches can't be used for like memorial purposes, but we already have like many that are like that, and also everybody kind of thought that was a nice idea anyway. So we kind of took that over, and it sounds like that is an approved use going forward. And that's it for parks.
Questions? Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Carson.
Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So Katie, was there any discussion about the ice rink or using Hodges Pond this year for winter activity?
So I understand it. Hodges Pond doesn't freeze consistently anymore. And it's even less likely to do so over the next, actually, I don't know that that's true, but after the dredging, I think that it's even less likely to. So I don't think that we are going back to ice skating on Hodges Pond ever. And that's just, I think, a reality of the climate that we live in these days. So we didn't talk about it at that meeting. That's just aggregate from all the conversations that we've had since January.
Okay.
David Risberger.
I just want to piggyback on that. Ever since they dredged it years ago, we started having problems. They deepened the pond so it wouldn't freeze over. And then, you add climate change, like what Katie was saying, and that just made it even worse. So unfortunately, I can't see us going back to having ice skating on there anytime soon. It's a shame.
Yeah, and the plan that I was talking about, it's partnership with the DEC and SUNY Coalscale, is to dredge it and change the pond ecology for the better over the next year or so. So it's going to get even deeper.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Katie. It's good for me to hear that Hodges Pond is older than I am. But I don't think either one of us are very good at skating anymore. Okay, let's go to committee reports. Legislative committee would be Councilmember Rafter. He's not with us tonight. Councilmember Risberg, you want to make the report?
Yeah, I actually was in luck and I had it right in front of me when I sat down. We actually didn't have too many things. We had the mask ordinance that we're discussing, and then there was an issue with the State Liquor Authority. The mask ordinance, we basically, in the committee, we came to an agreement after an hour and a half discussion to simply look to copy what the state ordinance is through the state health law. So that'll be coming to everybody's desk fairly soon. The other item was the State Liquor Authority. Katie and I had discussed what the possibilities or what ability the city had to impact the party atmosphere that we were having that was creating problems with COVID a couple weeks ago. And we figured if you're allowed to buy a keg, the keg is really for having a lot of friends over, not like 5 of you. So we decided to call the State Liquor Authority to see what options we had that might help improve the situation temporarily anyway. And it turned out that there really wasn't much that we could do because the changes they make are countywide. That would include like when they close bars, and the different permits for selling mass amounts of alcohol, like in a keg. So to make a change like that would be very, very difficult. And so we haven't decided to do anything at this point with that. And that's all I've got, unless Katie wants to add anything.
Yeah, I just
Hello.
wanted to clarify, if it's okay, that the state liquor authority said that they don't put a cap on how much alcohol is sold. So the other piece, the changing the time, is something that they could do through the county if we chose to go that route. But the limit on kegs, which I think was the thing that we felt was going to be more effective in quelling house parties, is not a possibility. So that kind of stinks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Finance, Human Resources, Councilmember Carson.
Thank you, Mayor. We met September 8th. We discussed a wide variety of topics, of which the minutes and the estimated revenue loss, the finance officer sent to all council members Thursday, the 10th. I guess I'll throw it back to everybody. Was there any questions for myself and or the committee members? Okay, hearing none, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. All right. By popular demand, we are adding to our agenda a report from Dr. Jorgensen, our City Health Officer. Dr. Jorgensen, all yours.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? So yes, it's an honor to be here. It's been a pleasure to serve the mayor and to get to know some of you these last few months. So what I thought I'd do is just give you a brief report, much as I would give to the task force when we meet, and then entertain any questions you may have of me. So as a brief overview, there are now over 29 million cases of COVID-19 worldwide, and there have been over 930,000 deaths. The number of new cases a day has been fairly level for the last number of weeks, so the pandemic is still with us in the world. Cases are still increasing in India, as well as some places in Europe. They're seeing kind of their second wave, those being France and Spain. Here in the United States, as I'm sure most of you are aware, the numbers continued to somewhat decline. The peak was in late July, where they were up to 70,000 new cases a day, and now we're down to about 35,000 a day. Overall, there have been 6.5 million cases and 195,000 deaths. Here in New York State, we've done better in terms of where we're on that curve. From a high in April, we've maintained about 500 to 800 new cases a day for the last number of weeks. And that includes a lot of testing, so that in general, what they're calling the positivity rate now is a little below 1% at 0.9%. That's the number of positive cases per the number of tests that are done on a daily basis. So in New York State overall, there have been a little over 445,000 cases and about 33,000 deaths. As we all know, in Otsego County, we've just been experiencing an outbreak. 4 new cases were reported by the county yesterday for a total of 48 in the last week, that representing a significant decline from where we were 2 weeks ago. The majority of all new cases continue to be associated with the SUNY Oneonta outbreak. There have been some Hartwick cases, 15 total to date, but depending on where you get the data, either SUNY or the health department, there just under 700 SUNY students who have been confirmed as positive cases. The number of non-students is what Heidi Bond describes as about what the baseline has been, maybe 1 or 2 a week. So we are cautiously optimistic that that reflects little or no community transmission relative to the SUNY outbreak. Again, I think that is with caution that we make that presumption. And I think that the additional testing that's happening this week and next week here in Oneonta, thanks to Gary and the state, will prove to be very useful and hopefully reassuring that the outbreak has pretty much been contained. So at present, only 3 students remain on campus that are in isolation. I wasn't able to determine how many are in quarantine. 52 students remain as active cases in isolation in the city. Again, those numbers have come way down as positive students have come out of isolation. Currently on campus, there are about 200 students that applied for exceptions, and then the RAs that are living with them that will be staying on campus for the duration of the semester, and about that many staff that actively work on campus. The SUNY has put a testing plan in place for those people, and they will be tested on a weekly basis. Testing will be available for off-campus students and they are encouraged to take advantage of that testing capacity up on campus, although it can't be mandated as it is for on-campus students. I have not been able to be provided with the number of off-campus students that are currently living in our community. So unfortunately, that is a number I would like to have known, but I cannot provide it to you. I found myself often wondering, what happened to all these students? Were any of them very sick? What I've heard consistently from the college is that they were only mildly sick, all students quickly recovering. Heidi from the Department of Health was aware of at least 3 students who had been diagnosed with pneumonia, and a couple of students that had to be seen in emergency departments for severe symptoms. Although, as far as she knows, even those students who went home, none of them were hospitalized due to COVID. So in a way, that is reassuring. The people on campus are telling me that there are studies ongoing to help determine if this may in fact have been a different strain of COVID-19, in that we saw such a rapid spread and apparent ready transmission with very little in the way of illness. So I think we'll still have to wait and see if that ends up being the case. I think that's about all I had to say about the colleges and about what's happening as far as we know in the city. Greg has been very busy, has been very engaged and working hard on looking at the wastewater data, which we've begun to look at and analyze. As you know, we've been sending wastewater samples in since the end of July, and as has SUNY, and we did see a significant spike from the 1st of September, which was maintained at a fairly high level in samples from both the 4th and 9th of September. We're still in the process of figuring out the significance of that. I think if nothing else, it just confirms what we already knew, in that we had a significant outbreak in the city. Unfortunately, the levels did not, as we had hoped, predict the outbreak, but more coincided with it. anyway, much analysis will be forthcoming, and we, both Greg and I think will report that to you as we sort it out. I think it's still very worthwhile to continue to do the testing. I think it may help inform us going forward in terms of what prevalence there may be in the community. The only other thing I had to say is that we did hear from Dr. Fauci on Friday. He spoke to a group of critical care physicians and emphasized that as many as 40 to 45% of cases of COVID-19 are asymptomatic, and these asymptomatic infections are accounting for up to 50% of transmission. That message, I think, points to the continued importance of public health measures such as wearing masks, social distancing, and all the things that all of you and the city has been working very hard to maintain. So my message would be continued vigilance in that regard, keeping up all the good work and public health messaging. And again, we'll know more after the testing that's going to be happening this week and next week. Questions? Glenn?
Diane, how many SUNY students were hospitalized?
None.
Okay, and there was no deaths.
No.
And if I understood you correctly, you said there was little to none spread to the community based on the statistics.
From what we understand so far, yes.
Okay. And as of right now, SUNY's policy is that they're mandating testing for on-campus staff and students, but not off-campus students.
Correct. But they did clarify to me that they are offering it to off-campus and encouraging off-campus students. They cannot mandate it. But they are going to be making it available for off-campus students.
Why can't they mandate it for students that are assigned to their organization?
It's a good question, and I don't know the answer. I know that they've rechecked that very question, and every time they come back to us, they tell us that that's something they cannot do legally.
I'll just jump in, Len. I did get the same message from Chancellor Malatras that their attorneys tell them that they cannot mandate testing of people who do not use their campus.
Interesting. Thank you.
Mark?
And the college has no accurate number of the students that are living off campus?
I specifically asked that question of President Morris yesterday, and they know how many are enrolled and are off campus, but not how many are actually living in Oneonta, if that makes sense.
If there are no other questions, thank you very much, Dr. Jorgensen, and thanks for all you've been doing for us. You've been a great help, and I know you will continue to be so.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll go to Katie Butler, who's going to provide us with the COVID task force report.
Mayor, I am so sorry. I actually was not prepared to give a report. I thought that David Risberger was going to. I apologize if I misunderstood.
No, Katie, you were right. Except after Diane's very thorough reporting, there's not much left to give. So thank you, Diane. There wasn't a lot to report really on Friday. Busing, there is really no change. Everything's been going very well. Fire and police, PPE levels are really good right now. As you already know, the control room meeting for this last Monday was canceled, and the mayor is going to be changing the format a little bit of the discussion for this coming week. We have yesterday and today were 2 days of testing over at the Armory, I believe. And then next Tuesday and next Wednesday is at 9 to 6, Gary, I think, which is going to be over at Foothills, the other 2 days of testing.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay. And I don't know if I missed anything else, but I think everything else Diane seemed to cover pretty well. Yes.
Just for clarification, it's Tuesday and Wednesday of this week as well, correct? Not Monday, Tuesday, but Tuesday,
Oh.
Wednesday?
I'm sorry, I've got my days all mixed up. Yeah, it's today and tomorrow. Did I say yesterday and today?
I might have misheard you. It's possible. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we're ready to go. Oh, you know what I want to do before we go to the consent agenda? Let's have the discussion about the mask ordinance, if there is one now, before it gets late and everybody's tired. So the proposed ordinance that was worked on by the legislative committee was sent out to the entire council. Before it mimics the state public health law pretty much exactly. And the only reason for enacting it is it puts some teeth into it. As a local ordinance, we can issue tickets, which could result in penalties as determined by the court. Before it gets laid on the desk, I know there was some emails back and forth. And so before we lay it on the desk and then have to pull it back because a majority of the council wants to make changes to it, is there anybody who has specific changes to it in mind that they would like to bring up so we can get through that before we go through the process of laying it on the desks? And then if we have to pull it back, we lose another week or two. Anybody? Councilmember Davies?
Point of clarification, when did that email come out? Because I have not seen that mask ordinance.
I believe I sent it out yesterday. And it's the same as the one that was sent out last week. The only change to it is removing any evaluation of health conditions by city staff or elected officials. Is the only change to the one that was sent out a week ago.
Mark did not get it. It was an oversight, it looks like. I'm counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mark, I'll forward it to you right now.
Did you get the earlier one, Mark? Could your name be missing from that Common Council heading that we've been using?
I wouldn't know if it was. I know Drenick and I have been doubled up a couple times.
The one that
Okay,
came from Mr. Merzig was not like that. It was individual emails, and there were so many people in there, he must have overlooked Mark accidentally.
Mark, I
Okay.
just sent it to you just this minute. I don't know how long the turnaround time is necessary to get to your email, but
Yeah, I sent it. Out.
Again, there's no change to the original one, which went out right after the committee meeting, other than removing evaluations of health issues by city staff or elected officials. While you're taking a look at that, Mark, Len?
Thanks, Gary. I just have a point of clarification that I need from David Merzig and Chief Brenner. During the legislation meeting, I thought I heard this correctly, and I just need this clarification that this is not a public health law, the executive order, and that right now the City of Oneonta Police Department could enforce or could execute this executive order by the governor, which is already in place, has been in place for 5 months now. And if that's correct, then do we really need to go this route? Also, can the code enforcement officers issue citations or tickets for this infraction of the executive order 202.17, I believe it is?
Do you want to answer that, Chief, or do you want me to?
Chief, David, somebody?
You can go first, Dave.
The code enforcement office can enforce health rules, whether we want the code enforcement office as being, they don't normally issue tickets of this type unless it's related to a housing situation. The other benefit of this is if we pass a local law, then it's handled locally and all the fines are handled locally, and it fits into our normal enforcement process. Is it possible? My opinion is that yes, it's possible. I don't know that the chief feels comfortable having his police officers enforcing the public health law. I don't know that they're set up to do that on a regular basis, but I'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, it's not part of the public health law is not part of our everyday routine of what we enforce. Most things come under public health law is considered a civil action and not a criminal action, which is very similar to what codes are. And I believe that there is some sort of link to a mandate to under executive law, but I'm not really even sure how that works. And I'm not even sure if we could enforce it in a criminal court level, which is what we do. If it goes in as through an ordinance, we do that all the time. And we're confident with that. And I'm not even sure who would prosecute public health law or a executive law, if that would be the district attorney or that would be the city attorney. Truth is, I just don't know.
Right. So that was going to be the backside of this question is, so one of the officers issues a citation, who's going to take it all the way through? And I don't think we're doing this for money. So Chief, in the 5 months that this executive order has been in place, approximately, how many times has the officers needed to enforce the executive order?
We haven't even made that a priority to enforce the executive order.
Right.
What we do is we use it as an element for possible other crimes such as criminal nuisance or reckless endangerment.
Right, right. And when you were giving your presentation during the legislation committee, one aspect of the report that kind of caught my attention was that officers went to Otsego Street for a reported party, I think was the term that you were using, and it turned out to be 3 people on the front porch. And so I'm just looking at this going, we already have an executive order in place that clearly defines that if you can't maintain your 6-foot social distance, that you're supposed to put a mask on, both parties, right? The one that you're passing and you yourself. So there seems like, again, to me, this seems like overreach on our part. And I don't want to overwork the Oneonta Police Department. You already have enough to do. So that's why I did a little research and found out that code enforcement officers could do this also. So, I mean, we're going to enact this. If this passes, whenever, who's going to enforce it? How are they going to enforce it is my question. Because is it people taking pictures? How are you going to measure the distance? Or is it the police officers or the code enforcement officers that have to physically see these individuals not adhering to the executive order? So there's before we pass this law, I'd like to know some clarification on the backside of this.
If it's a city ordinance, the officers would have to physically see it. They would have to be able to attest that the incident is to what they see, much the same as with an open container or something along those lines. They have to see it. There's always discretion involved, as well with that. And, we certainly could take an approach of reminding people first and using the ticket as a last resort sort of thing. It would certainly fall upon our shoulders with that, though, as a local ordinance, just as all other local ordinances do.
Right. It's not like you've been getting a lot of feedback from your officers and your sergeants that there's people that are not adhering to the law or to the executive order, excuse me. It's not like they're seeing or reporting back to you that, there's groups of people that are continually not wearing their masks.
Well, we get that. We just haven't necessarily taken action on it because we're not really sure what type of action to take. If it's a group walking down the street, we try to remind them that they should have that on, but we're not going to stop them and start issuing executive order tickets.
Right.
Just a reminder, this is a good discussion, but probably one that will take place if this comes to a vote. Right now, the discussion should be centered on as to whether the ordinance as written needs any changes before it comes to a vote. Anybody else see any specific changes that they would like to recommend to it? Scott?
I might have missed it in the reading. I just didn't see when this expires. Did we put a date on it, or?
It expires on the termination of the executive order.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else see any specific changes that they feel should be made before this is laid on the desks? Of course, once it's laid on the desks, it'll come to a vote and there'll be extensive discussion about passing it or not. Len?
So Gary, under my previous question about whether code enforcement can enforce this or not, under section 122-7 enforcement penalties for offenses, it just has B, the police department of the city of Oneonta shall enforce the provisions of this chapter. Should we introduce into there that the city of Oneonta code enforcement office could also, if the city attorney and the chief agree?
They can do it, but at the current time, they don't have statutorily appropriate tickets. If they were the ones who were to enforce it, two things would have to happen. One, we would have to generate tickets that would allow them to issue tickets under the public health law, which is something that they don't have currently. Plus, there would be then the question of enforcement because they don't have the right to commence criminal activities. Only the police do. So this does not rescind the code enforcement's authority to enforce the executive order under the state law. They don't have the authority to enforce the local ordinance. That's only the police. So they still have the authority to do it. They just wouldn't have it under this section. Was that clear?
Yes, it's very clear. Again, it just kind of reiterates my argument of that it's already in place through the executive order. So,
got it.
Anybody else looking for specific changes before it's laid on the desks? Okay, so we will go ahead, lay it on the desks electronically. We should be able to do that tomorrow, and it'll be on the agenda for voting on at the next council meeting. Okay, I think now we can go to the consent agenda. Okay, motion one is the motion that the council approves the minutes of the regular meeting, which was held on September 1, 2020. Motion two, motion that the council approves the warrants totaling $942,661.59. And the same be placed on the Director of Finance's desk for payment as presented. Number three, motion that the council grants a temporary residency waiver pursuant to the City of Oneonta Code 45-5 for employee number 025152 of the Oneonta Fire Department. This residency waiver is limited to the employee's part-time appointment. Four, motion that the council grants a temporary residency waiver pursuant to the City of Oneonta Code 45-5 for employee 025153 of the Oneonta Fire Department. This residency waiver is limited to the employee's part-time appointment. 5, motion that the council authorizes the mayor to sign the memorandum of agreement with the CSEA to temporarily suspend Article 11, Section 2 of the collective bargaining agreement through December 31, 2021. This is to provide flexibility for members in taking leave time for vacations, which were impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. 6, motion that the council modifies the 2020 part-time wage scale to include the position of part-time motor equipment operator at an hourly rate of $14 to $17 as presented. 7, motion that the council authorizes the mayor to enter into a shared services agreement between the New York State Department of Transportation and the city of Oneonta as presented. 8, motion that the council declares the items per the attached list as surplus and authorizes the purchasing agent to dispose of same. Items determined to have value will be listed for sale on the auction website, publicsurplus.com. 9, motion to approve the budget transfers and amendments totaling $19,200 as presented on the attached reports. 10, motion that the council authorizes the closing of Main Street between Elm and Chestnut Streets for 2 Saturdays, dates to be determined and approved by Mayor Herzig, between September 19th and November 1st, 2020, from 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. This would allow for Main Street restaurants to have adequate space to meet all New York State Department of Health requirements in providing additional outdoor eating opportunities contiguous to their premises. 11, motion that the council authorizes the submission of a COVID-19 state of emergency municipality agreement to temporarily extend licensed premises to a municipal street, sidewalk, or other outdoor area to the State Liquor Authority of New York for 2 Saturdays, dates to be determined and approved by Mayor Herzig between September 19th and November 1st, 2020. I believe the 2 remaining motions were set aside from the consent agenda as they were not ready in their entirety at the time of the committee meeting. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember Carson moves it.
Gary, I want to
Second.
remove some.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have asked for that. Thank you. Go ahead. Any removals, please?
Yeah, you're not going to like me though. 3, 4, 10, and 11. Sorry.
As long as you're willing to read them all. Okay, anybody else have any requests for removing any? Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda less items 3, 4, 10, and 11. Councilmember Carson makes the motion, second by Councilmember Risberger. I will call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter is absent. Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, that consent agenda passes without the motions 3, 4, 10, and 11.
Excuse
Let's go
me, Gary.
back to, yeah.
My question for 3 and 4 is identical. Is there any way we can tie those in together and vote once, or do we have to look at them individually?
As it's probably easier to just do them individually at this point.
Okay.
It won't take very long, hopefully. Motion 3 regards the temporary residency. waiver for employee 025152. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Risberger, second by Councilmember Harrington. Discussion.
My question is about callbacks, and I don't know if it was the chief that's here or the assistant chief. Are these employees going to be considered for doing callbacks, or are they strictly scheduled? Do they have a scheduled time slot?
These are part-time employees, and generally they are scheduled when needed.
So they wouldn't be considered for callback.
Well, as they live far enough away now, they don't.
Okay.
Further
That's all I have.
discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington. I think there was a yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you hear me
That's
now?
okay. I do. Councilmember Rafter is absent. Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, motion four, I'm sorry, is the same for another employee. Do I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Councilmember Murphy, do I have a second? Councilmember Harrington, discussion? If there is none, I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter is absent. Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That passes. We jump down now to motion 10 regarding the closing of Main Street. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Harrington, second by Councilmember Carson. Discussion.
Yeah, the question I have is, why 2 Saturdays? Why not 3 Saturdays or 4 Saturdays?
I'll turn it over to Mark Drenick.
Well, we had originally gotten approval for 8. We've gone through 6, and we are hoping to get 2 in. I'm not saying that if we get 2 in and there's a consensus among the community that we might want to come back for more, that we won't. But at the moment, we're just looking to get the remainder of the 8. And so that leaves 2.
Okay, because I know it's not, like, how fast is the turnaround with contacting the SLA? If we're looking to do that, because if that takes a while, I mean, you want to ask for more than 2.
Yeah, that's a point. But I had pretty quick turnaround, literally 24-hour turnaround in my conversations with them. I have not spoken to them in these last 2 months, but I'd be surprised if we don't have a similar sort of a turnaround. And I will, depending on how this vote goes, reach out to them tomorrow, unless there's a reason for somebody else, Mayor, to do that. But otherwise, my expectation is that I would reach out to them.
Mark, the other thing you might want to consider is if you get the 2 weekends in and you say, hey, we want another one, you're going to have to wait for the council to discuss it, which is it's kind of a big anchor on the decision and the process.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. The reality of it is, there are a lot of work, as you know.
Yeah.
And ensuring that we have all the players in place to make it happen over the course of a 13.5-hour day is not something that I feel on any week that I can guarantee. That's certainly the case this week, although I've got hopes that the idea that anybody in the community might be anticipating 3 or 4 or 5 more, because we do have members of the community who would like to see this go straight through to Christmas, and and boy, I do hate to disappoint them. I don't mind the virtual shackles of a couple. And I think I would take my chances on coming back to this council and asking for additional, if and when such an opportunity presents itself. We're also looking at this weekend if the numbers of our of our positives in the rapid tests allow, and the mayor's made it clear that we're looking at those numbers as being a dictate as to whether or not we would in fact even do something this weekend. If the numbers are good and we do something this weekend, the temperatures are going to be in the mid 50s. Outdoor dining is going to have to be something we have to see how that works as the temperatures start to drop. So there are a lot of variables. And again, I feel like I'm willing to take the chance. I'm happy to have the approval for 2. And rather than putting anything out there for anybody to have false hopes of maybe having 4 or 5 or more, I'd just soon take it 2 and be happy to have them, and then come back to this council if and when that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Katie?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, Mark. And it's absolutely, I think, Herculean what you guys have been doing this summer to give us this experience. I guess my question is, and I wasn't really thinking about it until Dave brought it up, but doesn't it make sense if what we're doing is basically asking permission from the SLA? We're not necessarily promising anything, and we're not saying, like, I totally get what you're saying, that you don't want people to get their hopes up, but basically if all we're doing is asking permission, I feel like we could be very explicit about, we just want to have the opportunity to do this. And so we're going to get sort of blanket permission, and then we'll do it on as many days as we can. And, that's something that you, I think, have been communicating well with, doing it and having the themes and then not being able to do it for a couple weeks. So I have no doubt that, with community engagement, that it would be easy enough to say, we can do it this week, we can't do it this week. I think the other piece is, if we're just applying for permission for restaurants to expand their footprint, that doesn't necessarily need city involvement, and it might be appreciated, if individual restaurants want to be able to do it. If we give them that opportunity, even if the event doesn't go forward as planned.
So a couple of things, if
Sure.
I may. So the State Liquor Authority has not been a problem or a constraining, agency around the length of time that we're doing this. And I really don't expect, frankly, in my conversation with them, if it is me, Mayor, that is talking with them, that they have an expectation that this ended at any particular moment in time. As I had reviewed the correspondences that I've had with them, it appears to be more open-ended than not. And I feel like it's literally just a case of making certain that they are on board for this continuing. It doesn't impact anything other than 7 restaurants, the SLA's allowance of, because it's literally about them being able to serve liquor in a contiguous, connection to their restaurants. As far as the businesses that may want to do this with or without street closure, there are several that have already put tables out on the sidewalk. The issue is that in order to maintain the 6 feet of social distancing that we expect with diners on sidewalks, that is in many cases a difficult, if not impossible, situation for the restaurants to set those tables up. So the rationale for them being in the parking spaces is to allow pedestrian access of the sidewalks and still allow that 6 feet of distance. But relative to the sidewalks, we again, with the streets open to traffic, we have had several restaurants that have continued to put tables out there and have done their very best to try to keep them socially distanced 6 feet apart from one another. But I don't think there's any doubt that having the streets closed to traffic and the ability to have pedestrians both in this middle of the street and on the sidewalk, and then allowing the restaurants to put those tables into the parking spots makes for a safer environment for the diners and for the pedestrians.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess what I'm saying is if we get the permission to close the street, an event doesn't necessarily need to take place in order for the downtown businesses to take advantage of that better, safer environment.
Mark,
So,
if I could just jump in for a minute, I'm sorry, just jump in for a minute. Mark wouldn't say this, but I will. There's been a relatively small number of people busting their butts on Saturdays, and they need a break. And I think 2 more is about asking them to do more than 2 more is asking an awful lot. If we're going to have 10 new people jump in and schlep tables and do all of that and work for 12-hour days, that'd be one thing. But I think let's respect the relatively small number of people who've been devoting their 12 hours of Saturday doing hard physical labor to saying that 2 more is about all we should ask of them.
Sure, I understand what you're saying. I guess my point is that labor doesn't necessarily, or I guess my question is, to my point, is that does all that effort need to go into it in order to just have the option to be able to do it? But
well,
I don't need to
no.
What I'm thinking.
The restaurants always have the option of expanding their footprint into the sidewalk as long as they can maintain 6 feet distance between the table and pedestrians walking on the sidewalk. Very few restaurants can do that. So the only way most restaurants can do it is if we close the street to traffic, move tables out into the street and so on.
Right. So I guess my thought was, parking DPW trucks at either end of Main Street and giving restaurants the option to be able to do that. That's not a question, but that's my question. So, but like I said, I don't need to press it. I'm just kind of wondering if it can still be done without all the extra effort, that has gone behind it thus far. So just kind of wondering out loud, but
Okay.
Thank you.
Dave, did you have your hand up, Risberger?
I did. I don't know that I need to go into it at this point.
Okay.
I think I understand what Katie was saying, and I think if the business owners want to do that, they could probably go through the Survive and Thrive group, and Mark could come forward and say, hey, the business owners want to shut the street down and do it all on their own now. We've got a handful that want to put tables out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look for Mark to lead that discussion if that comes up.
Can I just add one last thing, and then I'll be quiet on the subject. We have incrementally over the course of the 6 closures built a better quote unquote event. It's not an event, but a better experience for those who have participated, both the retailers, restaurants, and the visitors to downtown. And so having kind of exponentially improved the presentation, the hope of everyone, frankly, is that this winds up being something that carries on beyond the COVID and becomes a fact of Oneonta's summer life. And so the last thing that people will see is the thing that people will remember. So if the last experience that they've had was a good one, which is the reason we have worked as hard as we have to make certain that it is a good one, then that will carry through for those folks as they start to think about what they might want to do with Oneonta's Main Street next summer on a Saturday. And so we would want to continue to push as hard as we are pushing to ensure that we are bringing as much as we possibly can to the experience for all involved.
If there's no further discussion, I think we'll call a vote, and we're, just as a reminder, we're on motion 10. I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Councilmember Davies.
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger.
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington. Councilmember Rafter is absent. Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. So we'll go to motion 11. This has to do with, it's related to motion 10. It's applying for the SLA license to allow the restaurants to serve outdoors. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Harrington, second by Councilmember Carson. Discussion?
I have no questions.
I think Councilmember Drenick has.
Yeah, so in listening and taking very much to heart with Council Person Lepari Shu was saying, I think in the conversation with the State Liquor Authority, if we are looking at November 1st as being, so that's a good long time from now, as being the timeline through which we would like to have the permission, that will allow a lot of flexibility. So that would be, that November 1st date would be the date that I'd be looking to have them give us rock solid for.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Councilmember Davies.
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger.
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter is absent, and Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you. That concludes the consent agenda. Now of motion 12. Motion that the council approves the following resolution. Whereas the city of Oneonta submitted to the FAA a grant application dated June 11th, 2020 for a grant of federal funds to reconstruct the terminal apron, rehabilitate the terminal apron, construct an apron edge lighting, construct apron guidance signs, and construction and, I think I'm reading that right. Whereas the FAA approved said project on September 9, 2020 at a cost of $1,516,224, with the city of Oneonta being awarded an FAA grant in the full amount of $1,516,224. And whereas the city of Oneonta desires to advance the project by accepting the grant with the funding share being 100% federal. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of Oneonta Common Council hereby endorses and approves the project being described as the terminal apron reconstruction construction for the amount not to exceed $1,516,224 per the costs detailed in the grant agreement. And be it further resolved that all necessary budgets are hereby authorized. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute or cause to be executed all necessary agreements on behalf of the city of Oneonta. And be it further resolved that the resolution shall take effect immediately. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Carson, second by Councilmember Harrington. Discussion? If there is none, I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Let's try that unmuted. Yes.
Councilmember Rafter is not here tonight, and we'll go to Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Good, that passes. Thank you. And now we go to motion 13. This is the motion that the council authorizes and directs the mayor, upon final review by the city attorney, to amend the subrecipient agreement with the Otsego County Development Corporation. Per the budget transfer, which was approved by the council on November 1st, 2020, to increase the agreement from $75,000 to $128,280. And that the mayor further be authorized to sign any and all documents as may be necessary to implement this resolution. Do I have a motion to approve? Councilmember Risberger. Do I have a second? Councilmember Lepari Shu. Discussion? I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy.
Aye.
Councilmember Davies.
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger.
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu.
Aye.
Councilmember Carson.
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter is absent. Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. That concludes the motions on the agenda. Additional business? There are none. Correspondence, I'm not aware of any. Any additional discussion items? Okay. I'm sorry, Councilmember Carson?
Mayor, I might have missed the discussion, but what is SUNY Oneonta's plan for the rest of this month and all the way to January? The only thing I know right now is that they're closing the school campus down for any on-campus living. Is that correct?
It's closed down for most on-campus living. There will be a small number of students who applied for a waiver because they do not have acceptable living environment to go to outside of the campus.
Right.
I believe the number is under 200 that will remain living on the campus. That may fluctuate, of course, as we go forward.
Right.
The campus will remain open for support services for students. The students can access the campus for any number of support services. The staff that are required to be on site to provide those type of in-person support services will be so. Most of the staff and faculty will be working remotely. There'll be, of course, no classes or labs of any type taking place for the rest of the semester. It is my hope and expectation, if all goes well, that the campus will reopen for the spring semester.
So just as long as I understand this correctly, there's going to be no educational platform being utilized on campus for SUNY Oneonta until possibly January.
That's correct. No in-person classes, labs, or any other type of instruction or activities.
And so I'm sure every one of the council members here recognizes that there's a substantial amount of lost revenue to our local businesses. And SUNY Oneonta and the students are a major economic impact on our economy here in the city of Oneonta. When does the president of that organization come forward to you or to this council and say, hey, this is my plan to bring the students back, and this is how I'm going to keep the community and our students safe?
Well, I believe the decision to bring the students back will be made by the chancellor in Albany. And when that will be made, I don't know. Based upon the conversations I've had with him, my expectation is that unless things go sideways between now and then, I expect the school to open. In terms of a plan, that's a good question. And and how that plan will differ from the plan that was developed for the fall semester. I think it's a good question, Len, and one we don't have answers for yet.
So what do you need from this council to move this forward to strengthen your argument with the president of this college? I mean, because we need the college, just like we need Harper College. What do you need from this council to move your argument stronger, to get it open, maybe even quicker, or what is the plan, and share the plan with us?
Okay, well, I would welcome, if council members wanted to take some time to submit to me their ideas of steps that the college could take to make success in the spring semester much more likely than it was in the fall semester. I would welcome hearing those ideas and taking them, and we can then sort through them and determine which ones are meaningful and present them.
Sure. And then is there a committee or a board set up with SUNY Oneonta and the council? Like you asked me to sit on the one with Harper College. I'm assuming once they're done with their quarantine and isolation, that's going to get going. Is there one set up like that so we can have an open line of communication?
Not at this time. I think it's a good idea that we do. We had in the past had those type of cooperative meetings to discuss strategies and issues that were of common interest. We don't have one set up at this time. I think your idea is a good one, that we do have one.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I welcome all ideas on steps that should be taken by the city, by the college, and jointly, so that we can be more assured of being successful in the coming semester. Absolutely. Dave?
Yeah, this is a question for Greg. Greg, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I had a constituent ask me today, they saw, and I actually saw this as well. We had some people working on the traffic light at the corner of Maple and Center. And this constituent said that it seemed like the timing of the light is very fast now. And I wasn't sure if you knew anything about that. And has the timing changed at that light that you know of? Or are they still in the process of working on it?
Yeah, so what part of the traffic signal is loop detectors in the ground that detect when a car drives over them to initiate the signal timing. Those were cut, 2 of them, as part of the DDS gas main replacement project, and they're going to pay to repair those, but that hasn't been done yet. So we adjusted the timing today to be a little bit quicker, so that wasn't on the maximum timing at all. So yeah, that's accurate that it's obviously a little bit quicker now, but it will be fixed eventually.
Yeah, I think it's set at 8 seconds is what I was told.
8 seconds? I think we set it to 20. I can verify that though. That seems a little quick.
Yeah, they said they counted it a couple times.
Okay.
But yeah, if you could verify that, that'd be great. And I'll just pass along what's going on. Thanks.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Anybody else? David Merzick?
Mayor, I don't know that it got on the agenda, but there was the concern about authorizing the town garage to use to store some equipment in the animal shelter while the town garage is being demolished. And that's going to happen pretty quick. So we were hoping to get authorization to allow you to sign a shared services agreement to allow the town to do that.
Okay, I had emailed Greg this afternoon and asked if it was an urgent matter or it needed or could go through the regular committee process. I don't believe I heard back from him on it. So
I got a
therefore it's not
response
on the
back
agenda.
from him saying it was urgent. So,
Oh, okay. I didn't
but
see that.
he's there. Is
Greg,
this-
well,
Yeah,
Greg, do you
Yeah,
want to
I emailed-
discuss it?
I did email back. I'm sorry. Obviously it was this afternoon, so it's understandable. But the town highway department approached me a couple of weeks ago asking if they could use our animal shelter equipment bays, and there's a spare office there that's not used much now. And as a temporary home, while their current garage is demolished and the new garage is finished, they need to use that through November 30th at worst. I think they'll be done sooner. Basically, their building's going along well. So I have no problem with that. It's not going to impact our operations negatively. And I just would like to move it forward because I believe they're going to demolish their current garage starting next week. And I wouldn't want to leave them homeless per se for any period of time.
And I have worked with the town attorney to draft a full indemnification agreement. They'll be paying for the costs of operating, additional costs. They'll cover all of their employees for workers' comp, and they'll indemnify the city for any damages. But we need authorization from the council to let the mayor sign that shared services agreement on behalf of
Do
the city.
you have a motion prepared for that, David?
No, but I could articulate one, which would be a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a shared services agreement allowing the town of Oneonta Highway Department to use the city of Oneonta available space in the animal shelter, subject to review by myself.
Does anybody want to move that?
I'll move that.
Okay, Councilmember Harrington, second by Councilmember Carson. Any discussion on it? Okay, I'll call the vote. Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Davies,
Aye.
Councilmember Risberger,
Aye.
Councilmember Lepari Shu,
Aye.
Councilmember Carson,
Aye.
Councilmember Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Rafter is absent, Councilmember Drenick.
Aye.
Okay, that passes.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Council.
bringing it up. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Councilmember Davies, do I have a second? Councilmember Risberger, all in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. Carrie, if you're within ear range, can you do your magic transporting?
I am. It'll be the council, yourself, and HR.
No, it'd just be me and the council.
Okay. There you go.
I younger? Do I have hair?
Did I get everybody out?
I think
And-
you're
and
good
you-
now.
I was
And you know
supposed to
what?
be younger with hair
I
though.
I feel less tired already in this world. It's great. Okay. Wow, look at the people.
Can we
that
tell
have
all the
been
staff
hanging
members they
out
can go
here.
home now?
All these people have been hanging out. Wow. Sorry about that. Okay.
Think of what
do
they've
I
been
have
saying
a-
about us.
Oh my God. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you all. We are adjourned.